So Reform made an AI-generated attack ad against Zack Polanski, which has now been deleted due to it coming across as very anti-Semitic. So looking at the image, it's pretty obvious. They've made Zack look really scary, glowing eyes, hypnotizing you. It's very dog whistly. Now, given that those of us on the left have been subjected to disgusting anti-Semitic smears, I'm not going to jump on the bandwagon and automatically assume that the person who made it did it with the explicit intention of being anti-Semitic, although that is possible, right? It's very possible that the person who made it was very anti-Semitic and that's why he did it, or he didn't do it to be anti-Semitic, but when made it, realized, oh, wow, that looks anti-Semitic, but I don't really care. Obviously, that's still very bad. But the connotations of a Jewish person with glowing eyes controlling you is a very obvious trope. So the image was shared on Reform Brighton and Hove's branch on Facebook, and the Brighton Greens made a statement. Brighton and Hove Green Party utterly condemn the anti-Semitic graphic of Green Party leader Zack Polanski posted on Friday by Reform UK Brighton and Hove on their official Facebook page. There can be no question that the graphic is anti-Semitic, depicting Zack Polanski, only the 5th Jewish leader of a UK political party in history, using tropes and imagery that deliberately and intentionally draw upon Nazi propaganda. The image itself is beneath contempt, yet it is even more terrifying to reflect that for Reform UK. This is nothing new. This act of anti-Semitism represents only the latest demonstration of Reform's openly racist and fascist platform. Nationally, they have been at the forefront of fueling a rising tide of hatred and discrimination. And on Reform UK's Brighton and Hove Facebook, this anti-Semitic attack on Zack Polanski was followed yesterday by a further racist graphic declaring New York mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani to be a terrorist. The fact that Reform in Brighton joined in on the smears against Zohran Mamdani says a lot. I mean, Mamdani has had one of the worst smear campaigns I've ever seen, right? With high-profile figures claiming that he supported 9/11. He was 8. What I'm furious with, though, is the media. A couple of outlets have covered this, the National Scot, but imagine if this was done by Jeremy Corbyn when he was leader of the Labour Party. Imagine if it was done by a left party. You know, if the Greens did this, it would have got BBC coverage. And you might be thinking, well, Zack is Jewish and he's the leader of the Greens. That doesn't matter. He's been subjected to disgusting anti-Semitic attacks for being supportive of Palestinians. He's been called a fake Jew, a self-hating Jew, really awful things. But why is the media so quiet on this? Where's the EHRC investigation? Now, you could be saying, well, this is only one incident, don't overblow it. Well, as covered on this channel before, stats have shown that Reform supporters harbour the most anti-Semitic attitudes compared to every other party. 10% of Reform voters do not believe Jewish people are as loyal to Britain as other British people, and 24% believe that Jewish people chase money more than other people do. These are higher figures than for voters of any other major party. Of course, they're right-wing and they're part of the political establishment, so anti-Semitism doesn't matter. Now, during the entire anti-Semitism crisis with Jeremy Corbyn, not once did the Labour membership harbour attitudes against Jewish people the way in which many Reform supporters do. When analysed, Labour members harboured the least amount of anti-Semitic attitudes, bar the Lib Dems. The Conservatives were higher in number. There was no media storm in regards to them. And extra context, Labour swelled to 600,000 people. You can expect an increase of problematic attitudes. Yet the Tories had a third of their membership, yet still had more people in the party who held anti-Semitic beliefs. Now, even though the Lib Dems had the least, they also had a far smaller membership base. They were on, and still on, around 50,000 members. Now we have the Tory Party 2.0, Reform, where 34% of Reform voters have an anti-Semitic attitude, and that gets a pass. Now, you can't mention this story without mentioning Israel-Palestine. Why does the establishment get away with being anti-Semitic? Because they're in bed with Israel, and that's all that matters. Now, Richard Tice on many occasions has said he firmly supports Israel, Nigel Farage too. In fact, despite 34% of Reform voters having an anti-Semitic attitude, they are the most pro-Israel. By contrast, only 7% of Reform voters say that they disagree that they would be comfortable spending time with people who openly support Israel, the lowest figure for all party voters. So they're more comfortable with pro-Israel and Zionist people, but are the most anti-Semitic. Now, the entire establishment tries to equate Israel and Jewish people. We know that. We also know that criticizing Israel is not attacking Jewish people. But if the media were at least consistent, why aren't they asking questions about that? Why aren't they curious about what Reform voters think about Israel and Jewish people? And you know the answer. It's Zionists and Zionism. The media and the entire establishment are anti-Semitic. All they care about is if you're pro-Israel. Now, if Reform were pro-Palestine, you can guarantee that those stats would have been brought up and it would have been across the entire media.